This Stealing the Mind Bible Conference presentation is by Jesse Lee Peterson and is entitled How the Black Leadership Exploits America. For a free catalog of over 250 awesome Bible studies on DVD or CD, call Compass at 1-800-977-2177 or on the web at compass.org.
How y'all doing? I have a question. Why is it that these people are eating and the poor people are not? I made a promise to Bill that I will not be able to keep. He asked, could I keep my talk within 45 minutes? And I said yes. While at the same time I'm thinking, have you ever met a preacher who can keep a talk within 45 minutes? And so I lied. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and then what we are doing to help change the family and change America. I grew up in can you see me up here? I'm as black as the ace of spades, so I'm not sure. The light may have to be brighter. That's right. Yeah, you see my teeth, huh? Let me just ask this. How many of you have anger that you would like to overcome and you've tried to overcome it, but it keeps coming back? Just how many would just like to let anger go forever and ever? Okay. Only a few honest people. Well, I appreciate those. I'm going to show you how to overcome that. I like to open up by saying that I am not an African American. I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro. There are no African drums beating in my chest. The American guitar is playing in my heart. I'm as black as the ace of spades, but 100% American. And I love that. I'm grateful. I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama, right outside of Montgomery, Alabama. And I remember for coloreds only signs, for whites only, we were not allowed to live in certain areas. I went to a movie theater once when I was a teenager, and it said black Americans had to sit in the balcony because we were not allowed to sit downstairs with white Americans. But I was okay with that because we had a better view from the balcony. And I'm like, wow, this is cool, right? And twice a year I would be taken out of high school to plant the farm, and at the end, when it's time to bring in the harvest, we were taken out again to bring in the harvest. So I did get a really good education. But the one thing that we had going on is that my grandparents and my parents and others, they loved what was right. They told us if we worked hard, treat people the way that we would like to be treated, that we can make it in this country, that nothing can hold us back if we truly, truly believed in God. And so I believe those principles. Unfortunately, my mother was dating my father, and she got pregnant before they got married. And during those days, it was an embarrassment to be pregnant out of wedlock. And so my mother told my father about it, and he denied that I was his. And so before I was born, she married my stepfather so that I would not be born out of wedlock because it was an embarrassment to the family. And so they moved to Indiana after I was born, and I lived in Alabama with my grandparents for the most part. But I remember as a kid growing up, I had a void within me, an emptiness. It was like a longing for my dad. I wanted my father, and I could not help it. It was just there. And I realize now that God put it there. And long story short, I would ask my mother about my dad. You know, where's my father? Why can't? And my stepfather tried to be nice to me, but I wanted my father. And I would ask her about him, and she would say, oh, forget about him. He doesn't love you. forget about him. She was mad at him because of what he did. So she didn't want me to have anything to do with him. And I have to tell you, the worst thing that can happen to a child, whether male or female, black or white or Hispanic, whatever you are, is to turn them away from their fathers. Because when you turn children away from their fathers, you turn them away from God. Whether we like it or not, believe it or not, live it or not, or whatever, the reality is that there is a spiritual order to life, and that order is God and Christ, Christ and man, man over woman, and woman over children. It's not that the man is better than, but it's just that order. And when it's there, it works for the good. So when my mother turned me away from my father because she was angry at him, she turned me away from God, because the father represents Christ in the home and in the communities. He is not Christ, but he does represent Christ. And so I grew up with this kind of a void there, an emptiness, that a longing for my dad. I moved to L.A. in 1968. At the time, I was 18 years old. And I realized then that I had this emptiness. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I didn't know my purpose in life. I was lost. I had a lot of resentment from not having my father. But I thought it was love because I felt emotional love for my mother. But I realize now that when you're angry, your anger awakens that emotions that feel like love, that come from guilt, from resenting your parents. And so I went to L.A. at 18. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I was weak and insecure and just had no clue as to what to do on my own. And so I started to go to some of the churches in the Los Angeles area because God said to know thyself. The most powerful thing that you could do for yourself is to know yourself, know thyself. So I started to go to some of the churches because I wanted to get over this emptiness that I had, this fear, the doubt, the worry. And I went to some of the black churches, and I would tell the preacher after the service was over, you know, I don't feel like a man. I feel afraid. I have doubt and fear. What's wrong with me? How come I can't overcome this? And they said, well, it's not you. It's the white man. It's racism. The white man trying to hold you back. The preachers were telling me this. And then I started listening to people like Jesse Jackson. You ever heard of him? Just the worst of the worst. But I started listening to them, the NAACP, Louis Farrakhan. I never will forget, Louis Farrakhan came to Los Angeles, and he gave a talk at the Forum. And I went there, and Louis Farrakhan talked about how bad white people are. He called them blue-eyed devils. He said that the Jews were blood-sucking Jews because they would go into the black community and they would set up shop businesses. They would drain the communities and leave, and that white people had been holding us back forever, ever, and a day. And because I was angry, I believed the lie. Because when you're angry, it's hard to believe the truth. You believe the lie. And whomever caused you to become angry, they also control you in that manner by keeping you angry. And Louis Farrakhan said that black people were the first people on earth, and they created everything. And what happened is that some black men turned away from being good toward evil, and they went into a laboratory, and they created the white man, and that's how we came up with the blue-eyed devil. See, you guys didn't know where you came from, right? And because I was young and angry, and these people looked like they were the leaders, I believed that. It's amazing that I was able to believe that, but when you're angry, it is easier to believe a lie than it is to believe the truth. Let me give you a quick example of that. Anybody here ever been married before? Or dated at some point in life? I remember I used to date a lot, and my girlfriend would leave and go off to work or somewhere. I mean, I would go off to work, and someone would tell her something about me that was not true, but because she was angry, she would believe it. And I'm coming back home around 5 or so, thinking everything is fine, and she's mad about nothing. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? You know what I'm mad about. What do you mean? I have no idea what she's talking about, right? But because she believed the lie, became angry, she's treating me as though I did it. And how do you prove yourself to an angry person? But once I could get her to see what's going on, she realized that she had believed a lie, and that's why she cannot believe the truth. You got to let go of your anger so you could be able to see what's right and do the right thing. Long story short, my life got worse when I went out there to see what was going on with me. And then I was told I started to smoke marijuana. Anybody here ever smoke marijuana? Right on. I'm glad to meet you. And the reason I smoked the marijuana because I had so much guilt from resenting my parents. And I didn't understand this at the time. But when I started listening to Jesse Jackson and others, and they said the white man was my problem, I started to resent white Americans as well. The first time in my life, because while growing up, we were never told to hate. We were told to treat people in the right way. But I started to hate white Americans. And I have to tell you, when you resent someone, you become just like what you resent. You take on the identity of the person that you resent. I had become just like my mother, insecure, doubtful, had a lot of fear, didn't know what I wanted to do in life because I resented her. So I went down, I started smoking marijuana. That did not help. Then I was told, because you're black in America, you helped build this country, you could go down to the social services, at the time they call it the welfare office, and tell them that you're smoking marijuana and that you're not able to work because you're smoking marijuana. And I'm like, really? I'm like, this is cool. So I ran down to the welfare office, and I'm going to move a little faster here because I've written about this in several books. I went down to the welfare office, and I told them that I can't work because I'm on drugs. Could they help me out? And they said yes. And they gave me $300 in cash a month, free medical care. They paid my rent. They gave me food stamps, and they took absolutely care of me. But the sad thing about that, I got worse instead of getting better. Because when someone takes care of you like that, you don't develop the character, and you become dependent on whomever is taking care of you. And so I looked around, and I realized that my life had gone to hell in a handbasket, that I had only gotten worse rather than getting better. And so I asked God, please let me see what's wrong with me and how to overcome this. And so I'm riding to work one day in my car, and I turned the radio on, and I heard a Jewish preacher who believes in Jesus. I just happened to turn the radio on. He said that when you pray, just go into your prayer closet and be still and know God. Let the truth catch up with you. And at this time, I had tried everything else, so I went home and I gave it a try. And I really wanted to know myself and overcome my insecurities and my fears, right? So I went home that night, I sat quietly, and this time I wasn't asking for anything with words. I just wanted an understanding about myself so that I could get better in life. Because normally when I would pray, I would always beg God for something. You ever done that? Like, oh, Lord, bless my mama, bless my daddy, give me some money. I want a house. Give me a woman. You ever ask God for a woman? And this is the truth. I'm not making any of this up. It sounds crazy now, but it's true. I would ask God for a woman, and every woman he gave me, I could not handle her. So I finally decided I'm going to stop asking for a woman. I just figured that if God wanted me to have one, he'll give it to me and I'll be ready for it. So I stopped asking for a woman. But I'm sitting there this time and I just wanted the truth. And all of a sudden, he caused me to realize that I resented my mother for what she had done by keeping me away from my father. And that's why I couldn't really move forward in life, because I resented her. I had no peace. And when I realized that, I started to cry because I realized that it was wrong for what she had done to me, but it was wrong for me to resent her for it, to hate her for it, because what I was putting out was coming back on me. To hate her was preventing me from moving forward in life, and I realized that she could not help herself. And so I'm like, wow, I had a sadness that I had never experienced before that caused me to repent, because I saw clearly that I was wrong. My mother came to L.A. to visit her sister, and I knew I had to go and apologize. And at the time, I was about 38 years old. And so I knew I had to apologize, because God said, when you forgive others, he'll forgive you. They don't have to admit that they're wrong. You forgive them, right? And so I went over to my aunt's house to see my mother. And the closer I got to the house, fear just overtook me. Here I am, 38 years old. And I thought to myself, why am I so afraid to face my mother? And I remember when I was a kid, whenever I tried to speak up, she would make me doubt myself. You're being disrespectful, be quiet. And it put fear in me. And so I got in the house, and I'm out of breath. I could barely speak. And my mother's sitting there having a good time, and right away Satan said, this is the wrong time. You're going to spoil her vacation. But I knew I had to deal with my mother. I had to apologize. So we went into the room, and I told her that all my life I have resented you because you tried to turn me away from my father, and I thought you were a mean person. And I'm very sorry for what I've done because, yes, it was wrong for you to treat me that way, but it's wrong for me to hate you because I become just like you, and I'm sorry for it. And for the first time in my life, if for the first time in my life, my mother told me about her life, and exactly what she had done to me was done to her by her mother. And it just goes on from generation to generation. And I never knew that. And my mother apologized. She said, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I had done that to you, and I am sorry for that. And from that day forward, I have not been the same. When I forgave my mother, God took away my fears, my doubts, my worries, my insecurities. And 23 years have gone by, and he gave me perfect peace. I have perfect peace. I have no anger. Can you imagine living life with no anger? I am anger-free zone up here. No, none at all. And I've gone through more in the last 20 years or so than I had gone through prior. If you want to know what hell is like, wake up and start serving God with truth. Man, it all hell break loose. So I realized, wow, and I went and dealt with my father too, just so you know. But my issue wasn't really with my dad. I just wanted my father. I wanted him to be there. I had a longing for my father. But God he gave me perfect peace. I dealt with my dad, and I asked him why was he so weak, and he told me why. And just for the record, my dad is by the way, my mother and I, we got along very well after that. We were just absolutely amazing. I have 6 sisters and 5 brothers. And I started helping my mother with the rest of the kids, right? Because she started calling on me to help out. But we got along very well after that. Then I went and dealt with my dad. It was very easy. My dad is very weak. He's a Baptist preacher, a liberal Democrat. But I love my dad. And I realized he can't help it. I used to be that way too. Once God forgave me, I went back one more time, and I said to him, I have one more favor, God, just one more. He's like, all right, what is it? I said, I am a Democrat and a liberal, and I said, but now that I'm changed, you've changed my heart, I can no longer identify with the Democratic platform. Can you forgive me for being a Democrat? And he said yes. And I became a conservative Republican. And that's who I am today. At the party I believe in, a conservative party. And I have to tell you, it is easier to be a member of the KKK than it is to be a black Republican conservative. I wish you could come home to my family dinner sometime. It is absolutely amazing, but I love it. I have no problem with it. And so I woke up and I was like, wow, this is why black Americans are suffering. It's not because of racism, but the lack of moral character, the breakup of the family. What happened was, some 50 years ago, the government came in under Lyndon B. Johnson, supported by the so-called civil rights movement, and they said to black Americans, we're going to take care of you. You don't have to worry about working. You don't have to worry about anything. It's hard on you because of slavery. So we are going to take care of you, but you cannot have a father in the home. There cannot be a man in the home. And so move Christ out of the home so that the women and children become subject to the government. And that's what happened to black Americans. They turned the man away from the family. The government became the daddy of the family, and the corrupt black leaders became the head of the people. And that's what's going on today. And when I woke up, I realized, wow, this is amazing what's going on. So I started a nonprofit organization called BOND, the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. And we just celebrated our 20th year last year. And we are rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. We work with all men, but our primary focus is on the black man because he's been so screwed up for the last 50 years or so. So we're trying to wake him up, to get him to turn away from the black leadership, to turn away from the godless black preachers. Did you know that most black preachers are not called by God, but by their mama? And you guys are shocked to hear that, huh? I don't know about white mothers, but in the black community, when you're a little boy, if you say something that sounds really nice and smart, the black woman would say, "Boy, you are so smart. One day you're gonna be a preacher," and so you grow up and become a preacher because she said it, all in the name of Jesus, right? But most black preachers are not called by God. That's why you don't see the black community. Another reason you don't see the black communities getting any better; they're getting worse. But we have a home for young men that we bring in from around the country. We show these guys how to overcome anger, forgive their parents first, stop hating white Americans, and stand up and work hard, finish school, start businesses, get married before having children out of wedlock so that you can be responsible for your kids. We do counseling. We have an after-school character building program. And I'm proud to tell you that we've been in business now this is our 21st year that we're in right now. And we have not asked for or received one dime from the government. I believe the less government in your life, the better off you are. And so I thought to myself one day, how can I get this message out into the black community as to what's really going on? It's not white folks who are trying to hold you back. It's the black godless leaders that you're trusting the most who are holding you back. They're the gatekeepers of the Democratic platform. They are lying to you every day. They're the ones holding you back. So what I did was we bought some airtime. I had never done radio before. I have to tell you this. When I was growing up, I had a big head. My dad has a big head. Can you tell I still have it, or did I get rid of it? I feel like when God took my anger away, he took away my head too. Made it smaller. But the kids used to tease me about it a lot, right? And then I was born with a cleft lip, and so I couldn't speak that well. But I never imagined for a day, I did not grow up thinking that I would be doing what I'm doing now. It just wasn't a part of my thinking at all because of those things, really. But I decided, well, let me go on the radio in the black community so I can tell them what's really going on. That it's not racism, but the lack of moral character. And I'll give you some examples of the lack of morality in a minute. So I buy some airtime on KTYM in Inglewood, California. It's right in the heart of the black community. And a lot of black preachers buy airtime on there, right? So I figure this is a Christian message. Forgive, don't hate, work hard, have a tight family, love one another, do the right thing, right? So I go on radio and I tell them it's not racism. You need to turn away from your preachers. You need to turn away from the godless black leaders. You need to get married, be responsible, less government. So I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be a good message. So I give out the phone numbers. People start calling in right away. The lines are lighting up, and I'm all happy. And so we take the calls, and they were calling me names like Uncle Tom and Sellout. They say, you hate your mama, you hate your daddy, you hate your color. They called me some names I had never heard of before. I'm like, what is that? And then they said to me, the white man is paying you to do this. You just been Uncle Tom, who is being paid by the white man. And I'm thinking, really? So I said, hold on a minute. Let me do a commercial break right here. And I said that if there are any white people out there who would pay me to do this, here's my phone number. I would gladly get paid for it because I was not getting paid to do this, right? And so they threatened the manager, they're going to kill his wife, they're going to blow up the radio tower. So I was finally banned from that radio station. The manager, the manager of the station really liked me a lot. He wanted to keep me, but he was a white man. He said, Jesse, we love you here, but we can't take this anymore. And so I was banned from that station. And over the last 20 years, I've been banned from 3 radio stations in the LA area. But you know what's so good about this? Every time one door closes up on you, another one opens. It is so interesting. And the one that opens up is better than the one that shut down. Isn't that amazing? Have you ever lived like that? It's a perfect way of living. There is a God, and he's with us. He's really with us. I'm telling you, he's with us. I remember I was at I did a lot of work in the public school system in LA. I would meet with kids and talk to them about overcoming anger and how to be responsible, to work hard. And then the Los Angeles Times heard about me, and they wanted to follow me around to do a little profile on what I was doing. So they followed me to a school one morning there in LA. And on this particular day, the kids were asking me about homosexuality. Did I think it was right? And I said, no, it's wrong. It's evil. It's wrong. Don't accept it. Don't hate, but don't accept it. And prior to that, they had a guy to come in from the homosexual community teaching them that it was right. But when I started telling the kids that it was wrong, the teacher came in and threw me out of the classroom. And so they banned me from the school, right? And the LA Times wrote a story about it because they were with me on that day. And when that story went out, every opportunity you can think of opened up for me. I ended up on the Phil Donahue, Geraldo show at that time, radio shows all around the country. I got offers to write books. It was amazing. This is why I want you not to worry. I want you to love what is right more than anything else in the world. I have 6 children. I have 5 that I adopted and 1 of my own. And I love my kids, but I love what is right more than anything else in the world. There's nothing on earth that can turn me away from God, that could turn me away from what is right. Nothing. And moving on really fast, I am going to try and keep my promise to Bill. We are also known for the National Day of Repudiation of Jesse Jackson. And the reason for that, because Jesse Jackson at the time was influencing a lot of black people, young and old, right? And I said, this man is no good. This man is a race hustler. He's a poverty pimp. You know, I write about Jackson in my book, Scam, How the Black Leadership Exploits Black America. Jesse Jackson was a member of this organization with Martin Luther King Jr., but they never got along. As a matter of fact, Dr. King threw him out of the organization several times. When Dr. King was assassinated, Jesse Jackson took what looked like blood and put it on his shirt, some red stuff, and he went around lying and saying that Dr. King died in his arms. And I write about this in the book, so it's true. And when he was pressed by the media, he had to go back and admit that he had lied about that. That's how wicked this guy is. He's just been that way his whole life. So I decided we're going to have a National Day of Repudiation of Jesse Jackson on Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday every year until we educate black Americans about what this man is really about. Jesse Jackson cheated on his wife, remember that? Made a baby with that woman. He took this woman to the White House under the pretense of counseling Bill Clinton, who had cheated on his wife. And I believe they gave each other the high five. You know, like, like, right on, brother, I did it too, right? And yet, Jesse Jackson is able to walk into the average black church, and rather than repudiating him or rebuking him, he gets a standing ovation. Isn't that amazing? And so if kids are there who don't have parents to say that this is wrong, they're going to believe that this guy is a good guy. And so that's why we held this National Repudiation Day on Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, because we want to show the contrast between Dr. King's dream and Jesse Jackson's nightmare. Dr. King said that one day black Americans would be judged by the contents of character and not color. Jesse Jackson's nightmare is that black folks are judged by their color because they lack character. Here's an example. When I was growing up, less than 10% of black babies were born out of wedlock. It was an embarrassment to have a child out of wedlock. Now, because of Jackson and the government and others, over 70% of black children are born out of wedlock nationwide. And you don't hear an outcry about it. You don't hear them protesting it. They go to the government, ask for more money for it. When I was growing up, I never heard of an abortion. I knew no one who had an abortion. And now, according to blackgenocide.com, every day, over 1,500 black babies are aborted. Every day, 1,500. 70% of Planned Parenthood abortion mills are located in the inner cities. They are making buku money off of these young girls having these abortions. And you don't hear an outcry from the so-called civil rights leaders for it. That was never Dr. Martin Luther King's plan. He wanted us to become one nation under God. Because of Jackson and the so-called civil rights movement, we are more divided today than any other time in history as a race. Have you noticed that? And it's only because most, not all, but most black Americans have been dumbed down, brainwashed, and demoralized. And then white folks are afraid. They have said to you that if you speak the truth about black Americans, you are racist. And you have believed the lie. And now you will not tell black Americans the truth for fear of being called racist. Isn't that a sad commentary? And when you get to heaven and you ring that white doorbell, the gate bell, to go in, an angel or somebody, Moses or somebody come down, and they're going to say to you, what's your name? You're going to say, my name is Alice, and I'm John, Alice's husband. I hope we don't have a John and an Alice here. If we do, I don't know them, all right? I'm just making up a name. And they're going to say, well, what do you want? You're going to say, well, I want to come in. They say, well, why do you want to come in? Because I love you, Lord. I went to church. I read the Bible. I did the right things. And they're going to say, well, did you tell black people the truth? You're going to say, well, no. You're going to say, well, why not? Well, because I was afraid of being called racist. So I did not tell them the truth. He's going to tell you to go the other way. Because there's no way that you can love God with all your heart, soul, and might and be afraid to tell your fellow man the truth. There's no way. And I often tell white Americans, speak up and tell the truth. And if you're afraid of telling black people the truth, you can always tell the truth and then run. Just got to take off. Because the one thing about the truth, if you tell the truth and don't overreact to them overreacting to you telling the truth, it'll work on them. It'll stay there and work on, because the truth is of God. It's not us, but it's God in us. And so if we tell the truth and don't overreact to people telling the truth, then God will do the rest. That makes sense? But when you overreact, it look like you're the bad guy, and it made them look like they're right about being wrong. So you got to stop overreacting and tell the truth. Tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. Moving on a little faster here. We have had good success at exposing Jesse Jackson. He doesn't have the same influence that he had prior to us going out there to expose him. And so that's why our mission is to just educate folks with the truth, all races. Because if we are sons and daughters of God, we are one together. It's a spiritual battle. It has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with whether you're male or female. It's good versus evil, right versus wrong. So tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. I started we started the South Los Angeles Tea Party recently. Have you heard about that? The South LA Tea Party. And thank God for the Tea Party movement. Because had not it been for the Tea Party movement, you think Obama has done some bad things? It would be worse today had it not been for the Tea Party movement. And so we started the movement because of what it stands for, and then the NAACP and others were going around saying that the Tea Party movement is a racist organization, that they're trying to put blacks back in slavery, that is white folks, once again, want to set us back in Jim Crow law. It's all lies, but again, when you're angry, it's easier to believe a lie than it is to believe the truth. And I have spoken at Tea Party rallies around the country, and I have never met one racist at either rally that I've spoken at. And so I thought to myself, maybe we should start a South LA Tea Party rally in order to educate, once again, Black Americans about what we're all about. And so we started the LA South Center Tea Party rally, and for whatever reason, well, because of God, the NAACP had its rally in Los Angeles. Its conference in Los Angeles. I think they were celebrating 102 years of being in operation, right downtown LA, right at the same time that we started the South Central LA Tea Party. And I'm like, wow, there is a God. And so we had our first Tea Party rally in front of the LA Convention Center protesting the NAACP. And everybody and their mama showed up for the rally. We had old people there, we had young people, we had black people, we had white people, we had Hispanics, we had young people there. It was something else. And I'm saying all this to you because I want you to know, and I used to be a coward, and I have to tell you, and the ladies know this already. They may not tell their man because they want to control them, but there is nothing worse than a weak man. Isn't that right, ladies? Nothing worse than a weak man. If you want to make your woman hate you, be a weak man. They hate weak men. Women need men that they can respect, that they can look up to, a man who loves what's right more than he does himself or anything else. It's in her nature to want that. And so by standing up as a black man, but an American, but as a man, I'm starting to influence other men to do the same thing. Get married. Do the right thing. Don't hate. Realize it has nothing to do with color, but character. And we got to keep putting that message out there. We got to come together as children of God. I write in my book, Scam, how Louis Farrakhan, there's a chapter called Louis Farrakhan, America's Hitler. Louis Farrakhan is the worst of the worst of the worst. He lies to people. He keeps them angry. He hates the Jews, and he hates white folks. But yet, because white Americans are afraid, the liberal media support this kind of stuff in order to divide us, he's able to get away with it. At what point will you realize that our battle is spiritual? And at what point will you put your feet on solid ground and stand up for that? God is with us. He's really with us. One other point I want to make. I told you over and over and over again not to vote for Barack Obama. But you didn't listen. The election of Barack Obama was about black racism and white guilt. White people thought that if they gave black Americans a black president, that somehow or another they're going to believe that racism is not an issue, at least not coming from white folks, that it's not an issue anymore. I said, no, it's not going to work. You can't change a man's heart by giving them a physical thing. You have to tell them the truth so that they can repent and turn away from evil, turn away from it. When President Bush was in office, 30% of black Americans thought America was a racist society. Now that Barack Obama is there, over 50% of them think America is a racist society. Isn't that amazing? Because it's spiritual, it's not about color. It's spiritual, so you have to tell the truth. And black people voted for Barack Obama because he was black, first. Because he was black liberal Democrat, they voted for him. Had he been a black conservative Republican, there is no way you would have gotten 96% of black folks to vote for him, including that sellout Colin Powell. Remember him? A traitor to the Republican Party. That would not have happened. And now we are more divided because if you disagree with Barack Obama, you are racist. If you tell the truth about him, you are racist. And if you're black, you're an Uncle Tom sellout. It's a spiritual thing. Barack Obama lied in the beginning by saying that he didn't know Jeremiah Wright Jr. spoke racism from the pulpit. And this was during the primary. I'm like, this man just lied. You can't trust a liar. Have you ever been married to a liar or dated a liar? They never change. They just go from one lie to another one. And I said, Barack Obama sat under Jeremiah Wright Jr. for 20 years. He said that this man is like an uncle to him. He married he and Michelle, baptized their children. He gave money to this man, and yet he never heard him speak racism from the pulpit. And the people fell for the lie, and look what we have now. Barack Obama is a black liberation theologist, redistribution of wealth, white-hating, Jewish-hating, lying, worst president that this country had ever experienced. And I do believe in my heart, because I think the only good thing that's coming out of having him in the White House is that it shocked everybody back into reality. Everybody except the black folks. And not all blacks, but most. But I believe, without a doubt, that he will go down in history as a one-term worst president that this country has ever experienced. Thank God for that. One thing I like about God, one thing I love about God, and I have 5 minutes to wind this up, and I'm going to try to keep my promise as a preacher. One thing I love about God, this is the greatest nation in the world. Everybody and their mama are trying to get here. We can't even keep the illegal aliens out of here. And it's, let me make a quick point, and I'm going to take a minute. It's so sad that these illegals are coming in, and they end up in the black communities first. And they take away jobs, day labor, they take away health care. The schools are overcrowded. A lot of the black kids are pushed aside. And yet, the black politicians will do nothing about it, but the black Americans keep voting them in over and over and over and over again. And I'm telling you, it's because they're angry and can't see what's going on. They keep feeding them lies. They had the Congressional Black Caucus has been going around the country under the pretense of trying to help find jobs for black Americans, right? Well, they came to Los Angeles, and we showed up. And one thing that happened there, Maxine Waters said to the black audience that, don't worry, we'll take care of you. Those old bad Republicans want to put you back. They want to take away your programs. And Maxine Waters said, they want to take you out of the projects in Los Angeles. And she named all of the projects that they have in that area, right? And she said, don't worry, I am not going to let them take you out of the projects. And she said, even better than that, we're going to build some more projects for you. And you know what they said? Oh, yeah, praise the Lord, hallelujah. Lord, glory. They were giving glory to God for Maxine Waters keeping them in the projects. Isn't that amazing? That was like mind-blowing. But they have been demoralized. And then they have these people above them before God. When you put someone else before God, that person become your God. If you put government before God, it become your God. Whatever you believe in believes in you, and it controls you. And so that's what's going on. You got to stand up and tell the truth, and tell the truth, and tell the truth. God has given us one more chance. This is the greatest country in the world. Everybody and their mama are trying to come here. We can't keep the illegals out. We got to stand up and become one with God, and then we got to take back our government. It is we the people, not we the government. I don't care whether it's Democrats or Republicans, but we got to tell them what we send them there to do. And if they don't do it, we got to put them out. That's the only way we're going to save this great nation. And God has given us a chance to do that. So, in closing, I want to encourage you to drop your anger first. Whether you resent your parents or you resent your relationships, whatever that little resentment is, forgive them so that it doesn't make it right, but forgive them so that God will forgive you. And when God forgives you, He's going to cause you to enter into the kingdom of heaven within. There's a kingdom of heaven inside of us and above. And when you can live from the kingdom of heaven, by way of the kingdom of heaven within, you have greater power than you ever imagined. You have perfect love, you have courage, you have the ability to see, and the ability to wake up and take a stand. That's what made this country so great. That's what it's going to take to restore this great nation. There is nowhere else to go. But we got another chance to save our country, but we must rebuild families as well. We got to put families back together, bring back that order, because when those families are tight, the government can't do anything to hurt you. You can't have all these crazy laws that we have. In California, they are now going to teach the children in public school gay history. That's insane. But they're doing it because the family is broken. So we must put the order back. And to the white man, they're coming after you too. They're trying to do to the white man exactly what they did to the black man. Turn him away from his family by calling him a racist, saying that he hates women, he want to control everything. And they want to turn him away from his family and then bring in the government for the women and children and do the exact same thing. It's a spiritual battle. God is with us. And God said that he asked us to stand, stand, stand. And when you've done all you can do to stand, stand some more. Thank you so much, and God bless you. I appreciate it.
This has been How the Black Leadership Exploits America, presented by Jesse Lee Peterson. To receive a free catalog of over 250 awesome Bible studies on DVD or CD, all using and defending a literal translation of the Bible, information on upcoming Bible conferences in your area, or details of our missionary outreach and trips to Israel, call Compass at 1-800-977-2177 24 hours a day, or visit us on the web at compass.org.